u-sʔath, Ahousaht. My English name is Dave Frank, and welcome to my place here.
Can you explain the meaning of chief? Like what would be their purpose? Their role?
I guess it varied from chief to chief too. And, for us it was, he was there to provide for us, and he was there to provide leadership in that way. And he had his own council. He had his people that were thinkers, and he had people that were warriors, and it was all set up in a structured manner. And that's how it was for us at u-sʔath too.
Class Berikitla or Hakstatla or Amti Inis Hanishach Qabchen Utach Qatsquid Ho Api Uquilats Uflatachitlaku Yaquisquid Hatwit Uklat Mama Takshat. Ahousaht was our first chief. He resided in Ahousaht, facing away from the mountains. This was a whaling station way back before the Europeans came. We'll start off with Ahousaht. Ahousaht was the only chief. Ahousaht would only allow 3 fishermen to go out each day, as other nations wanted to claim different areas along the coast. Ahousaht moved his people to Incoas, east side of Blunden Island. High on a rock, they fenced themselves from 250 feet by 150 feet. The Hajjad came and attacked the Ahousaht. When the three fishermen one day came in with a skate. It's called Paquin. Ahousaht felt offended because he wasn't invited to the meal, and he didn't get his choicest part from the Paquin. And when the Hajjad came and attacked Ahousaht, Ahousaht was stubborn when his people came and told what was happening with the Hajjad. But on the 3rd attempt of calling Ahousaht finally got up and put on his warrior clothes. He saw a warrior. His name was Ahousaht. He was from Hajjad. He was dancing on the beach, and Ahousaht shot him with his bow and arrow, and Ahousaht fell in the water. That's when the Hajjad retreated, and that's when we're almost wiped out. Ahousaht declared that the second cousins were allowed to marry due to the decrease of the tribe. Further on, the second generation, there was a chief named Ahousaht. Ahousaht means lightning. This chief was very generous. He made sure that his people had equal share of everything. The Ahousaht only had one river. That was u-sʔath River. The u-sʔath and the u-sʔath joined the Ahousaht. There wasn't enough fish for each family because they had grown to be a large tribe. At the time, Ahousaht, there was a giant of a man named Conacham. He had slain Ahousaht so as he could take over his chieftainship, which he did. At that time, Ahousaht had a son named Kakatmas. He escaped jumping through the roof and running along the beach, and he climbed on a big cedar tree and made a nest for himself out of moss, and he stayed there, praying that his grandparents would come look for him. On the fourth day, they found him, and he moved to Ahousaht near Hot Springs Cove. u-sʔath stayed with them in that territory. Then Connacham took over the chieftainship. He took ownership of everything the people owned, canoes and everything. Then the people planned to do away with Connacham. They slew the giant. There was a big battle that left only one girl, which in today, the ancestor of the Morris family. After the killing of Connacham, u-sʔath returned to Ahousaht and took over the chieftainship. u-sʔath became known by the name of awiih. awiih was the third chief. That is the history of the third chief. He speaks of the thunderbird that came down from Chitapi, Catface Mountain. awiih was a generous chief. He was also a great whaler. He was well respected by his people. He also composed a song, how he won the tug of war with the thunderbird. At that time, he had a son named Ahousaht. Ta-inuism was the younger son. The elder son, Ahousaht, was a great warrior himself. Ta-inuism, the younger brother, was even greater. He had whales. Then his brother, Ahousaht, got gravely ill. He asked his brothers to come and see him to find out who loved him the most. None of them offered enough except Ta-inuism, who came in with 2 big canoe loads of people and also said he would have 2 whales at his gravesite with 40 abalones and also invite 10 new child tribes. That's the time the elder Ahousaht stood up and announced, "Now you own all these territories of Clayoquot Sound, which Ahousaht owns." Ta-inuism from then on owned them.
So this went rules of the chief and from Ahousaht. Ahousaht is that head chief. That's why they're called Ahousaht. They're called Ahousaht. And us on this end called Ta-inuism in place of Ta-inuism, second chief. We see is that Howard, that's the third chief. It just started from when Ta-inuism got that chieftainship from his father. And Ta-inuism got a son named u-sʔath. u-sʔath, that's the third chief. Oh, Patak H is stuck with that holy to the chief. It's Ta-inuism. That's where it comes from. That's where that thing has come to second chief. First time we'd have a second chief, Ta-inuism.
Well, there was the head chief was Makuna, and the same family, Hitla, Chakanu, Atio. They branched off there in the same family. Closely related, right, Betty? Pretty closely related, eh? Makuna and Hitlas.
Yeah.
And yeah, they come from one family. Brothers, eh, right?
And it's my understanding that the 3 chiefs were from one family, and we are one ancestor going back many generations. So which branched off, and we are one of the branches. My understanding of going back to the original chief of Ahousaht, where we originated from, before we came here to u-sʔath, the 3 chiefs, and then the amalgamation of the several tribes. Part of it, in my understanding, is what happened all over Canada with Indian affairs, is that they brought together many groups of poets who lived in different areas for ease of administration. It's easier if instead of having the 5 or so tribes here, groups of families here that were here, and having each one answer to Indian affairs, we brought them together, and it was easier for them to administer. That's one of the areas of ways of looking at the amalgamation. The other is, of course, related to what happened after the Ahousaht War, where there's a distribution of the way the territory was redistributed after the war, created by the conditions of the war.
At the same time, I think that's when they formed the council. And they formed the council, and they had it mixed with the other tribes too. They welcomed them in. Patak Hot Springs. We and Keltsmet people they amalgamated with. But my grandfather used to say that the tribe from Hot Springs, like James Swan and them, they were not a tribe anymore because of the war they had together. They took the chief from there and told him they'd keep him alive over here, but he was not taking his chieftainship with him. So I don't know how they hung on to their chief because they eliminated him when they won the war. It's quite a long story, I guess you'd say.
Connachum, he was killing off all babies, the boys, male babies actually, killing all the babies. And Ahousaht, they got together and took the baby and hit the baby in wherever it was a secret, eh? You know, they brought the baby up in childhood and taught the baby, and as the child grew up. This story is I never hear anyone else talk about it, but I do know from teachings from my elders, granduncles, say, when I was a little boy, they talked about it. They taught me the history of that.
But the tribe from Keltsmet, they accepted the chief from there, and that was Chester Charlie. And it was my grandmother, Geesta's wife. Her name was Queen, they used to call her Queen Mary. She was the head chief from Keltsmet, but she lived over here because she was with my grandfather. And she used to say that because she was a woman, they let Chester take her place, but she was still head chief. And Chester's father never related to her about what she should do with her seat. And when she died, she took it with her. So actually, we don't have a chief from Keltsmet either. She tried to give it to David Frank, but he refused it when she was on her deathbed. He said he didn't want it, so when she died, she took it with her. So actually, they were the Charlies and the Johns were fighting over it because they wanted to take over.
Just and I used to visit Alec McCarthy and his wife, Louisa, and she always brought it up to me. She used to say, "Why is your cousin, why does he want to be chief?" She said, "We were at a big feast at Keltsmet when Chester Charlie throw a feast with the people over there, and he was packing. Papa was a little boy, Martin Charlie Jr. Told the people that he was going to be the next chief, my cousin Martin Jr. I wanted to share that with you because this woman, Louisa McCarthy and Alec, Louisa said she was married to Joe Tom from Hishkut. At the time, Chester threw a feast. I was married to him and we were invited. She said him and I were witness to that feast when he gave his chieftainship to Martin Charlie Jr. I wanted to share this because I have a lot of respect for my relatives, for the people in the house.
Classish McQuina, just actually not too season. First of all, I need to really be let you know that we have protocols that we have to deal with, and certain things that I can talk about. In as far as what was handed down to me by my dad.
Can you tell us what your role is as a chief?
The role and responsibility that my dad gave to me was all of the lands to look after, the waters, the people, from what belongs to Ahousaht that intrusively that I look after with my counterparts.
Can you tell us how you gained your position?
In history, when you go back in history, John Jacobson takes us back 17 generations in my family. And there was Hutwith named awiih. And he was ready to give his title to his son, he gave it, and it wasn't to his oldest son, it was to his youngest son. So precedence hasn't been set in what's happened with me. My older brother Corbett had been looking after my dad's title for quite a number of years, and he hadn't been living a really healthy life, and he did something that my dad didn't like, and it was something that wasn't good. So my dad told him and called him back and said, "I'm going to take my title back from you because you're not walking that road that I want you to walk it." So he took it from my older brother Corbett, and Corbett gave it up. The Hinkleetson that went with it, the Muya person, he gave it back, and so my dad had it. He was the title holder, and he did this himself. He went and because of who my dad was, the strength that he has, I guess that's what he can do. He asked me, he said, the surprise that I had for you was I want to give you everything that I own, my title, all the dances and what have you. And I said, no, I can't accept that. I told him my life is really busy as it is. I just don't have the time. And he said, no, you're going to take it. You have no choice in this matter. After time went by, finally I said, okay, I'll do what you're wanting me to do with your title, is to look after it. So November 11th came, 2006, I believe it was, 2007. 2006 is when he gave it to me. in Portal Verney at the House of Gathering. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't come home to do it. And the elders from home told me here that in order for this to be official, you need to take what your dad's given you and take it home and show the people what your dad's given you here in Ahousaht, and do all the dances that he's given you, and put up the curtain that he's given you. So we did that, but in the meantime, my dad passed away. So I was going to put everything away for 4 years. And again, the elders came, and my family came, and they said, your dad was 80 years old. He lived his full life. He wouldn't want you to put those songs and dances away. You need to show the people and keep the dances alive. So 2007, we did that. We brought everything home and showed the people that what my dad gave me. Really difficult, because it's things that happen in families, and in trying to walk a healthy road in what my dad was wanting to see that position, that he didn't want to see Ahousaht in the same position as other tribes that have no head. So that's where that came from, and it was my dad that he did that, and we did have the party back here in 2007.
What families sit in your house?
Well, we have the Georges, and we have the Johns, Murray John and his family, the Seachers, the Tidians, the Websters, the Charlies, the Pauls, Robinsons, Adams, the Littles. Sorry, I forgot. The Littles are also part of our house. The Jacobsons, they were a big part of us, our house.
Tawinism had a son named u-sʔath, and u-sʔath had a son named Ahousaht. That's the time of the war. Ahousaht was a great warrior, and Ahousaht had a son named Kupcha, and Kupcha has a son named Kithlamuchan, and Kithlamuchan had a son named Richard Benson, and Richard Benson had a son named Jack Benson, and Jack Benson, who never did have a son, handed down his chieftainship to Billy George Keitla, and Billy George Sr. handed his title down to his son Billy George Keitla. Now, in place of Billy George, is handed down to J.J. Keitla, son of John Keitla. His grandfather was the second eldest son of Kithlamuchan. So that's the lineage of the second chief.
I noticed that our head chief married the second chief's daughter. His name was Kupcha at that time, but he changed his number to Benson to say. So the TIA come around in 1949 or 1950 with a big book. They used to have the writing on there who was the chief at times, and Benson wasn't recognized as the second chief. They recognized Sean Keitla because he was a Keitla. It showed up that Keitla is there being recognized today. At that time, it should have been coming from where the ruling of the chief comes from. Taoism. That should have been the name on there. And it should have showed that where the ruling of chief comes from. But that name would say that John Kisa had that name. I don't know when, but I know John Kisa had Nananish. That was his name. Nananish. That's what he used to tell me.
My father's name was Eugene, and I have the same name, Eugene. His father was Shamrock, and his father was Kista, and his father was Nuke Meese. And that's as far as I go in. I was born in Talk to Speak, and speaking my language first. I was born in a big house, Talk to Speak, not in a small house.
That was the name of the house?
Talk to Speak. That was one of the names of the house. It had two other names, Homies and Himmick Stock. And of course, Homies is the cedar, and Himmick Stock is a reference to Himmicks is deer fat. Stock is oil. And the name of the house is indicative of the roots of the Ahousaht tribe, one of the roots, one of the lines, the awiih line. And so as a result, the territories were, in interpretation of my family, given over to the administration of awiih, of Kista. And it doesn't mean that he was looking after it like Ahousaht. And everything we have anyway in the beginning is from what I call awiih, the creator, the one who is, the one who owns everything. And we don't own anything in that sense. And so if there's a Ahousaht, it's under awiih. And so there's a distribution to people who look after various parts who have different roles. Like a beach keeper is an example, and many other kinds of roles that people have. So it's not like the Mamatni system that we learned about in school, where there's a king and he's like a dictator, he owns everything, and you have to come to him for everything. It's hard to kind of explain. It's more democratic in the Ahousaht system. It wasn't perfect either, and nothing was ever perfect. It was always a struggle, always a challenge, and I have great admiration for our ancestors who did so much to manage all the difficulties, which the world is not doing a good job today at this. In spite of all their science, in spite of all the highfalutin philosophies and so on that they have, they're in great trouble. The world is in great trouble with the environment, with wars and with gassing and chemical brutality against each other, and so on and so forth. So that's to put things on an even keel between us and them.
There were 5 tribes that amalgamated together.
Ahousaht, Kilsmith, Ahousaht, Ahousaht, and you can choose any tribe. They're all together now. There was we from Nijin, there was Wata, and there was different places, right?
How come there's only 3 principal chiefs, not one from every?
The chiefs, when they amalgamated, the Mukuna and the speakers told them, whatever you guys do, you do it. That's before they came together as one. You do your stuff at your own place. That's what they were told. But we're all one now here. We're all Ahousaht now, eh? We do everything here now. Nobody goes out to go to Hot Spring or whatever, eh? Right? There wasn't any chief there. They didn't have a chief. The real good tape coming from Dan David, he was Panit. He talked about Panit. Their head man over at Panit was Jack Patrick's family. They moved to Uxbridge, right? That's what do you call it? What do you call it when you move one place to the other? Like, from one tribe to the other tribe. That's where Jack Patrick was from, his family. Panit, Dan David was a Pitsit, half a Pitsit, half Panit, right? And the only one that stayed there was Ray and them, eh? Ray, Campbell's, and Thomas.
I guess with those leaders there, the Koyatse, who was Ray, he was head of the, one of the head men of Cheshire, I guess. Cheshire. He talks about Cheshire.
And I just want to share this, what my dad taught us was that there was just 3 hereditary chiefs in Ahousaht. That was McPherson George, the Keatlas in the middle of the reserve, Atlius on the other end. And they amalgamated with Kelsmith and Manhouset. So that made 5 chiefs, hereditary chiefs of Ahousaht when they got together. And my dad always taught us to respect these people. And my dad taught us that we were from McPherson's house. We were in that family, well, however you can explain it. But my late brother always told me that we're under Louis George's house.
I know we got 3 what we call as the principal chiefs here, which is Lewis, used to be Hayupinot, the second. And
Now there's a changeover happening pretty soon. Of John K. Jr. taking over. Yeah.
I took to be the 3rd chief. And the Mount Norton had the 1, and that's the Swans. Kelsmith had u-sʔath had Ronnie George. I know that one. I don't know about the others. I would hate to put something on record and say, no, I said that. I don't want to do that. Awiih means an honored seat. Honored seat is given, it's not given, you earn it, okay? It's an earned seat. If you had a awiih, you're one of the most supportive of the chief. You feed people. You give chief, if you're a good fisherman, you give him a lot of the fish, so he could really feed his elders and the people. So there was what they call awiih, and they don't talk much about that either. Awiih is like a group of people that are one of the most knowledgeable people. Ahousaht used to have about 12 awiih, an advisor to the chief. The advice, okay, that's the man that should have a awiih. He was given that at a party then. Sit among the chiefs then. Because of his being a good hunter, good fisherman. He provided for the village.
Has awiih changed?
Yes.
Yeah, how has it changed?
How it's changed today is, let's say I had a awiih. And because I have a awiih, now I think I can hand it down to my son. It doesn't work that way. Let's say my son was no good, lazy, nothing, he doesn't do nothing. How can he earn it? It's an earned seat. Today, because I have a awiih, I'm going to hand it down to my son. Just like that, it's changed. It shouldn't be like that.
Can a commoner be a awiih?
Oh yeah. Most of the commoners had a awiih. It's an honored seat.
And remember also, awiih is awiih, not a chief. You have a seat with the chief, but you're not a chief. Either awiih or advisor or whatever, eh? You're rewarded by the chief to get the seat. When Kupad got a seed from Mukuna, Kupad was from Wata. He got a seed from Mukuna because Kupad gave him medicine to have this person survive. That's how we got that seed, eh? And then one day, when I saw that Fishty poster of him, like that picture there, about Russell on there, eh? Chief of all chiefs, higher than any chief in the house. That's what it said on there. Only way he's higher is Mount Meaxit to all of them. Tayatskum, Tayatskum, Kupan, to the Atlus and to the George. He was Tayi man, like James Adams. Big James Adams was Tayi. But you'd hit him in certain parties, not all parties. Certain parties you put those guys, Kupan, Cherokee, and Wally, eh? Big James Adams. He went with the James, he didn't pass it to anybody, so there's nobody there. But still they trying to recognize Jimmy. I heard that in the party once, eh? James Adams. Although he went down with it, he took it with him, eh?
I think he took it with him.
Yeah, he did. That's what Louis used to tell me.
Yeah.
He didn't give it to any of the boys.
He never even told hardly anyone that he was.
Yeah, they just recognized him, yeah. They just recognized him. He was Tayi, eh? Tayi from Earl George, eh? Tayi man. And same with Rocky. A few other people. Same with Kapat. I don't know where Snicks got his. Lane Wally. He got it from Chips, eh? But where did Chips come from? He lived in Catface. Below Catface, that beach, this side. That's where he lived. That's where Lyle Campbell come from. It was given to Herbert Peter, from Herbert Peter to Wally. And Wally to, what was his name? Lyle. No, the other one, Lyle, yeah, Lyle.
Oh, yeah, Lyle.
You know, all of them, eh? Like Herbert didn't have kids. Mm-hmm. Wally didn't have kids, eh? Those two, eh? Mm-hmm. It was just passed on to them.
How would somebody get a seat like that back, though? would it...
Well, either you got to believe the person that says it was given to him, or they just gave it to him because he's the next one in line. I don't think Wally willed it to anybody. Not that I know of, eh? Mm-hmm. I just know Wally, he died in his sleep, right? He never once mentioned where it was going. Mm-hmm. He needs also climate when he took it with him, eh? He died when he never gave it to anybody. He went, it's gone now, eh?
So once it's gone, it's gone? You can't...
I guess you can, eh? If you have something to prove that it was given to him, eh? If you believe in whoever... Like I said before, you don't inherit a seat. Mm-hmm. Chief gives it to you, eh? That's what I was told. Like in a party, when my dad retired, he gave it to me. Nobody objected to it. See, that's what I mean. Mm-hmm. He didn't die first and I took over, you know. I took over even 10 years after, before he died, right? That's why it was important when the person, funny, elders knew when they were dying, eh? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They knew they were going to go and they'd call in, u-sʔath, you know. You'd point out if they were on time to give it to somebody and they knew where it was going. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Really, it's up to the people that sit with me, the people that have seats in my house. We call it awiih. They're, when we get together and meet and discuss who should sit in our house or who should have awiih, it's up to myself and the people that sit with me.
Can you explain a bit more what awiih? Maybe what their role is?
The awiih are the people that help me in everything that I do, everything that in planning, what it is there needs to be done, anything that's going on with the Ahousaht, the laws, in the law, our traditional governance. They help me make decisions in what needs to be done with the Ahousaht as a whole. Mm-hmm. Getting ready for whatever it is that we're getting ready for. They're there as they're the ones that they help me in every way that I can to make these decisions.
Do you take with yourself?
No.
No.
No, it's that echoeth in my family from, from time back has, it's the families that have been there. It's I guess it's the people that were the most knowledgeable in our overall families. And the families, when they get together, they say we're going to put this person in because he knows all the songs and dances, and he knows all your tzikha and the rattles. These people. It's a family, the whole family that puts them there.
Well, like I said, there's Ehpet, the thinkers, the most knowledgeable people will decide who the next one can take that seat. The old man, well, I got old right now. I'm old. I don't go out anymore. They'd remove me. Then they'd put this next good hunter or fisherman in there that's most supportive of the chief. Give him that seat.
So that could be anybody else.
It could be anybody else, as long as they're a good fisherman or a good hunter. No, that's the way I understand some people. And people don't. They want to change it, and they don't like it. I don't agree with that. It should be earned like they used to a long time ago.
But they used to have advisors in their house, people that helped them along to make decisions.
3 houses here. Keitla, George, and Esther say. Mukun was on the other end. And that's when they're going to stand up. Who is the chief? Who the chiefs are, eh? That's what they said. That's why I don't want to mention. I don't know who they're going to choose, eh? To this day, I don't. They haven't mentioned it. They mentioned 3, 4 guys anyway, but I don't want to say it because, somebody might blow my house up if tell them they're not a chief. We don't want that. They'd be guilty on you too. How do you get a seat? You're chosen by your chief, eh? Different people, it could change. I don't inherit a seat to pass on to, but some people feel different about it. They pass it on to their son or something, eh? But I believe they're chosen. My dad was a speaker, and Pom Pom was a speaker. And late Paul Sam spoke for everybody, not just one chief. He spoke for this whole tribe here. He was a chief counselor, right? And one of the things I believe is how late Paul Sam governed everything here, He worked for this chief, eh? That's before we became the way we are now. Custom election or whatever. Election of council, eh? Paul Sam and the chiefs pretty well ran everything here before.
Paul Sam is the hereditary speaker for the hereditary chiefs of the Ahousaht. The hereditary chiefs of the Ahousaht used to speak much, and so Paul Sam was in great demand to speak for them, because they knew no English.
The main reason that I'm told is that it's always for the protection of the awiih. The governance, the law of our people is to never ever have the chief make a mistake. How could I make a mistake if she's talking on my behalf? She makes a mistake, it's not me. That's okay. She can make the mistake. And it's protection for me. And the thing is, when you speak, you can't never call those words back. Mm-hmm. It's really, it's hard to call in the teaching of our elders. Be careful what you say, because it's so hard to bring back words. And when you have somebody else doing that for you, that'll never ever happen. So it's 100% protection of the awiih.
Well, there's many reasons, I guess. When I heard main reason is when there isn't a big gathering, mind you, it's different now, okay? It was all in our language before. if a chief said the wrong word, the wrong thing, you know, it would go on him. But when he lets his speaker speak, it's, you know, it was him that said it, or it was Harold, or it was whoever, Marie, or whoever he's got, eh? That's why. We just more or less open the floor for him and he does the rest of it, eh, right? They had speakers and advisors, every chief.
Did the chief pick his own speaker and advisor?
Pretty well, yeah. Whoever's in his house, eh, he picks his, you know, the house. Like McCunna had one here in November, what, 7, 8 years ago, whatever. He picked Marie and then me and Hudson. Eh? Yeah, they're down around, yeah. It's James Swan, or sometimes I get up for Keith, eh, right? The other speakers are not around.
Who is your speaker?
I have 4 of them. I have Murray John is the head speaker of our house. It was his brother, his late brother, Mumuk. But Mumuk said to Murray, he said, I want you to take this because you really know how to speak. Mumuk was very, very knowledgeable, but you get people that have a hard time speaking in a large group of people. And Murray just doesn't like that. You tell him what you want said, and he'll put it right now. So there's Murray John. John Webster is another one of the speakers that I use. Harold Little. And the 4th one is Dave Jacobson.
Oh, curtain. Yeah. It always told the story of what they were good at doing. Like Sean's curtain tells about my grandfather being a whale hunter. That's why he's got so many whales on his curtain. And when he when he got into Nanaimo University as a, what do you call it? He's there as a, yeah, he used that, like his dad got so many certificates from school that he said he reached his grandfather's same kind of whale hunting, he was saying. He used that as an example. And like what you achieve in life is what the story will tell on the curtain. Some of them have wolves on there because they own some wolves. The kind of wolves they had was human wolves. Then some have just totem poles and stuff like that, and they must have been carvers why they have them on there. So that's the story it tells is what kind of a person was he? What did he achieve in life?
Yeah, it's a history of where we come from and how we came about, and even the gifts and ceremonies that were part of it. And it showed who your governance was and who your government was. It told a story about your family, chief's family anyway. Yeah. It depends on the chief. I'll tell you a story about one time, and I was at a potlatch one time with my father. My dad was born in 1898, way back, and we were sitting at this party at Awiih one of the chiefs there, Alec Frank and them were doing a performance. They had a potlatch, and they had their hinkeets come out to dance. And I was sitting there, and my dad, and then this guy came out and he danced, and then this lady came out, hinkeets. And I was thinking about it, and I finally said to my dad, I said, I thought only men did the hinkeets. And he just turned to me and said, it belongs to the family. And in his own way, he was telling me it belongs to them. They can do what they need to do with their dance. So that's how it is, eh? Whatever belongs to the chief, and if they wanted someone to paint a curtain outside the family, then they can do that. That's their prerogative, not for us to say, you have to do it this way. And that's the chief's family, I should say, not just the chief, but the chief's family.
I've always interpreted the Kukwana literally as a remembrance ceremony. It's translated as remember reality we. Kukwana. And so I see it as a parallel to the sacred ceremony in a church where the priest or the minister administers the remembrance of Christ to the believers, to help them to be strong, to help them walk in the right way. So that is the way I've always seen the Kukwana. And we have within our own language support for living in the right way. It's in the stories, it's in the language, it's in the teaching. And so we have a different culture, but it's about the same kind of thing, about living in the right way. And I think it's a good idea, a very good idea to record. The purpose of it is good. The purpose of it is to remember the good things, the strong things, and to bring us closer together. Not for any one person to be more important or more valuable than another person. That's not the idea. That's the mum of the idea that some things are more important than other things. It's hard to explain that, but they come as many things where some things don't have any value and other things have real value. I don't believe that our way of life was like that for our ancestors, and that some of the best ways of our ancestors can help us today, that all of life has value. All of life is of value, and that everybody is valuable. True, Ahousaht.
That's the top justice thing is that tukon. Whenever that tribe is in trouble, they put that tukon on. That's when that everything comes out. It was more like a very powerful justice system to quiet the tribe down. When there's something going on bad, the tukon comes out with all the chiefs, and they're the ones that put. I knew my dad used to take me along when I was a little kid. They come in around there 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, gather the advisors, speakers, and they shut the door at the chief's house. They used to do that, the Benson. And he has like I think it was very strict because he used to have no Thomas and my father by the door with a big machete or not to sneak in. They didn't want anyone to close that house. That's how important it was. What it is, they were always amalgamated with Kitsmith. Kitsmith wolves are in there. They're in there. church side, and true Canada can't be at nowhere else. It's got to be where all the chiefs are, rulings of chiefs, and they're the ones that put it on. And a long time ago, they said they used to use a board, slam it on in that big house. That's a warning of it's going to be too going on. But nowadays they use the gunny, bang bang. They announce that it's going to be. So nobody on the road. When these wolves went around the whole our village here, there weren't allowed, not even one person. They're respected. That's how much a respect was to my time. But now we should be like that today, because I'm still here. What makes me think now today, my time is getting shorter. It's pretty hard. I gotta speed up something while I'm hearing it. You can't just drift away forever, and you'll never hear it again. Not to be too bad.
They used to use the Turkana like you're planning on, because they had a lot of laws come out at that time. They were really strict with a lot of things that went down. We weren't allowed to eat fresh caught fish or something. And I remember Mildred and her brother, Willie, they got hung up on the ceiling because they confessed eating fish, fresh fish, and they even put a stick in their mouth. And they had to be like that. They couldn't talk. And like he's saying, you weren't even allowed to walk around the village. They were so strict with that, especially when the wolves were around. And I know they go so far with this today that they're not as strict as they were then. I remember having to have curtains drawn at night because you didn't even know whether they were going to come out to your house to do something. And they never really told us. But when she was taken out of the hall, there was a party going on there. And her and Helen were taken. They put all the lights off after the wolves went around the hall, banging on the walls. Then they put the lights on and allowed them to come in. And when they left, they looked amongst everybody to see who was missing. And there were two of them missing, her and Helen. And after they were the first ones to be taken. And after that came the awiih. They called awiih when it's another family that wants to do the same thing. But I was part of that awiih. Then when he was talking about that, what did he call it now? u-sʔath. They used Thomas Louis because he was a special person who had triplets. So they used him to cut his leg for his blood. And that's what they used on our face when they took us out. Each wolf took one each of us, because it lasted 8 days that time, I remember. Everything was different every day. It could be a different family that was doing it. But they had, I guess it's like being in a big house. You have to, if you're going to participate, you have to plan on everything that you want to do. But it was quite interesting, and the last time was when you your father had the Trikwana for you? It was nice. It was nice because it gives you that feeling of being with them, especially when you're participating in it. And I think that's what you're looking for, is to have people know that, yeah, I'm part of this and I want to be part of this. And they'll find that, yeah, this is what we need.
Grandfather, her dad, was telling me when they were doing parties here in Ahousaht, they had the serious party here in Ahousaht. They would shut everything down, nobody would move. And right at Chitapi, there's a rock that shows, there's a rock there. And they had a man standing on the rock because he'd watch to make sure that anybody coming this way, he would let people know. He would stop the people from coming when they were doing Kukwana, because it's a really significant symbol in one of our laws that we have.
There's going to be a meeting about chieftainship, eh? We're going to call it the Chan, and they're going to have a Tukwana, the 3 principal chiefs. That's when you enforce your law of Ahousaht, eh? They talk about Witwank or whatever. It can't work because we're under the cop system, right? We're under that, 2 things, eh? Right? Witwank can't go in there and take you out or whatever the case may be. You see, I was advised to take one guy out once from Mukuna, right? But I went to see the family first. The head of the family, I talked to him. Lucky I did, because he said, don't do it, Harold. You're the one that's going to end up in jail if you try to take him out, he said. I said, well, how? And he told me, so I said, oh, okay. So I went to the cops, and I asked them, have I got a right coming from Mukuna? I said, no, you don't. He said, there's a paper here. It's protected by the law, the outside system, right? The court. He went to court, he wasn't guilty. That's why I wasn't allowed to touch him and take him out. He said, you're the one that had to go to jail. He said, not him. I tried to take a guy out, they push him out, or whatever the case may be. Before, they just used to push him out in the canoe, eh? The trouble was over. So, how well they were governed, nobody could touch them. That was before 1900, I guess, I mean, there wasn't anything like that when I was a kid. Yeah, they're going to have it probably 3 nights, eh? All together, one after the other. Depends how long they take. Because Tukwana, I don't think we can ever duplicate Tukwana today, the way it was done years ago, right? I heard people talk about it, I hear it on tapes, but we can't do it anymore because we don't know. We just know bits and parts of it, eh? Well, once you're Tukwana, that's when the law is enforced, eh? Witwank and whoever, yeah, people, they appoint a policeman or whatever. So, and you can't have Mamatli on reserve. You can't have Mamatli or a non, how do you say it? Non-Ahousaht member in all. You just got to be straight Ahousaht. It's our law, eh? Nobody else. So they were pretty strict about Tukwana. I've never seen it. So it was done a long time ago, or maybe when I was in school, I guess it was done last time, I don't know.
Was it just at the hall?
Yeah.
Like the whole...
No, there's a place called Switchby here, eh? It belonged to the Keatless Jack Benson, eh? It's right where are we? Close to the beach, eh? Right by the rock there. That's where it was. Near the totem pole, eh? On the side of it.
We know the old saying that the kids will do what their parents or their adults are doing. And I feel certain that we as parents also look at our younger generation and wonder what is in store for them. Our generation, it's going to be this coming generation that they're going to find easier to live amongst other people. There's going to be probably 1 or 2 generations when we see people come to real understanding towards the Indian. Today it's called a problem, but
it isn't when you really take a good look at the Indian internal reserve way of living. There are some certain that you and I would like to see changed. There's one or two things that you and I would like to see done on reserves. I know in my time that there's one or two things that I wanted to see speeded up. There's one or two things that I wanted to see done right away. But in this transition period, what we're in is something that you have to take it by eventual steps. It cannot go like this.
Walk softly down the packed earth paths of Ahousaht and listen for the sound of battle. Don't close the history books.